Well, those kill Trump signs in Tehran and the reports of Israeli intel on a new assassination plot against the president are just the latest threats against Mr. Trump. Iran has openly sought to kill him since 2020 when he ordered the strike that killed Revolutionary Guard General Qasem Soleimani. Let's bring in House Intelligence Committee committee member, I should say, Claudia Tenney, Republican of New York. These threats against the president are nothing new, but they seem to be taking on a new intensity these days. Congresswoman, would you agree?
Yes, I agree. And of course, Iran has been threatening to kill many members of the Trump administration before, including former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and others. And now this new threat against President Trump is not being condemned, by the way, within Iran by the leadership. Those are the people that are being encouraged probably by the IRGC and others. And I think we have to be really careful. And I agree with Ambassador Whitaker. We have to exhibit strength with these people. And I think we need to get whatever we can out of the negotiating table. But I really think that there comes a point where you're going to negotiate for so long that you're only giving them time. And I worry that we're just giving them more time to ramp up and continue relations, with other enemies around the world to get resources from them. So I hope we act quickly, and I hope we act decisively. And I think President Trump is starting to realize you can't negotiate with these people, which is why he has clearly stated the ceasefire is over.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. The president says there is no more ceasefire. His ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, has some thoughts on what's going on. Listen.
This is pretty serious. You can't just make these kind of claims. I think it's important for Americans to understand that what the Iranians are saying and doing is nothing that they haven't been doing for 47 years. And if anyone could get them to a place of making a change about their evil behavior, it's President Trump.
But so far, there has been no change in their behavior during this Trump administration. Do you think that the potential, the threat of more bombings, more bombardment is going to bring a change in this regime?
Well, I agree with Ambassador Huckabee. Unfortunately, I don't think that negotiations with them is going to stop this. I think they only understand one thing, and the only reason they're at the table is because we've pretty much decimated their Navy, and we've really taken out a lot of their ability to retaliate. And certainly they have some assets left, but it's going to be a situation where you're not going to change the mentality of these people. Their mission is death to America, death to Israel. They're subversives. They want to take over. And I just, we're at a point where we have to recognize that they haven't changed at all in 47 years, and they're not going to. And the peace through strength methodology is what we have to engage in. And if it comes to, even more strikes and really putting this regime to the point where the people can rise up against it, the good people of Iran and the people that are being oppressed, I think that's what we have to look to see if that's is a possibility.
I think a lot of people hoped that would happen even after the first round of bombings that killed so much of the top leadership of Iran. It hasn't really happened yet. There hasn't been a mass uprising. Why do you think that is?
There's so many people over there that are still part of the regime, that are still in place. The IRGC needs to be completely obliterated. We have called for, obviously transparency from them. It never happened. It was actually, in one of our National Defense Authorization Act bills, and, the Biden administration never followed through with it. I did my own report on the IRGC and what a threat they are to our nation and to the world and to the Middle East and to our allies there. So I think now is the time. I know the diaspora, the people from Iran all over the world, particularly in the United States. I've met with so many of them and known so many of them over the years. They feel they need to have that opportunity, and they're looking to President Trump as their only person, just like Ambassador Huckabee said, who can actually give them the opportunity to bring back their own government without this, really just vicious, brutal regime that's in place right now.
Let me switch gears just a little bit and ask you about Mayor Zoran Mamdani of New York City. His international affairs coordinator, I think that's the title, was supposed to meet with an Iranian government official this week. The meeting got squelched, but listen to Mayor Mamdani on what happened there. Listen.
That meeting did not take place, it will not take place, and I did not know about it until there was a press inquiry regarding it. And when it comes to the work of our commissioner and our international affairs office, it's to ensure that as we are a city of the world, that we are also there to meet with leaders from across the world. The focus is always on our city and our relationship.
So we are a city of the world trying to meet with other, representatives of the world. And one of our first in the Mamdani administration is going to be somebody from the outlaw regime in Tehran. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, the mayor is trying to pretend he doesn't know what's happening. And if he doesn't know, then his mayorship is obviously, we're showing that he's not a good leader, but neither one is acceptable. And they've also acted that now they're saying they're going to put a process in place to deal with international leaders. Well, they don't have the right or the obligation to freelance in foreign policy. That's the obligation of the federal government and the State Department, particularly with a regime like this that is trying to kill the president, has caused a death to numerous, thousands of Americans over the last 47 years, and we're currently in a war with. So, this really worries me on another level, too, with Mamdani. He's truly the leader of the Democratic Party, and he's the leader of the subversive movement. I know people say they're progressive, they're communists, they're Marxists. No, they're subversive. They want to destroy what we stand for as an American country. They want to destroy our Constitution. They don't believe in it. They want to replace it with their own ideology. And this ideology, unfortunately, is influenced by regimes like Iran. That's the great red-green alliance, the extreme Islamic State with communism, Marxism. And that's not what the United States stands for. I do find it antithetical to our Constitution that these people can take an oath of office and stand for dismantling everything our Constitution stands for. Whether it's freedom, self-governance, human rights, individualism, those things are condemned by Marxism, and this is what these people stand in the opposite part of the world. And I'm very worried about that, especially as a New Yorker. And we in upstate New York are very concerned about what's happening in New York City.
Yeah, you're not the only ones. A lot of people are. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.